Treasury Secretary nominee Scott Bessent gets positive early reviews from Wall Street, but he is facing tricky tasks in the months ahead. Yahoo Finance's Washington correspondent Ben Werschkul joins us now with more. And we've gotten a little bit of insight from some articles in the Wall Street Journal and elsewhere as to what he's prioritizing, but what could be some of his challenges, Ben?
For sure, Julie. So he's definitely clearly in a kind of honeymoon phase right now. So what I'm looking at for a story tomorrow is kind of the ways the honeymoon ends. And I have four for you, including the taxes one, which is his top priority. A couple other issues that are kind of looming for him that he'll have a tricky time with in the weeks and months ahead. One is tariffs. That's the big one. We talk about it all the time. Scott Bessent has kind of aligned himself with Trump on tariff, but with some key caveats. He's talked about it. Tariffs, but for strategic industries, tariffs, but rolled out gradually. Trump notably has kind of blown past any of those caveats. And he also has another figure in the administration, Howard Lutnick, who's kind of all in on tariffs as well. So there's clearly going to be a debate in the administration, and the markets like these caveats that Bessent has put forward. But the question is kind of who wins that debate next year. A couple others to flag. One is a pushback from the left, specifically on the Federal Reserve. Elizabeth Warren is going to be likely to be a big Bessent antagonist over the coming year. And in her statement on it, she zeroed in on the Fed specifically this idea that Bessent has of a shadow Fed chair, basically appointing someone soon to make Jerome Powell a lame duck. And Warren, even though Bessent has reportedly kind of backed away from the idea behind closed doors, Warren is focusing on that and is clearly going to be questioning on that and bringing up the kind of questions of Fed independence, which markets are a little less fan of. And then the other one is unrest from the right. This was a really laborious process for Bessent. He was the front runner at the beginning. He kind of saw his stock fall and then rise again. And in that time, he kind of earned critics on the right side there. Elon Musk notably called him a business as usual candidate, which is not a compliment, which he was not a fan of. And there's a lot of focus here on the fact that he used to work for George Soros, and he contributed to Hillary Clinton a long time ago. So there's that. And then the last one is the tax one you mentioned, which is what he said his top priority is. And there's a lot of questions about whether he can deliver these promises. Trump has talked about 12 different tax cuts he wants to have happen. Bessent's going to be charged with doing it. But with a $36 trillion federal deficit, that's going to be tricky.
I'm curious, Ben, despite that, there was that criticism from Senator Elizabeth Warren, as you pointed out, but is the expectation here that he should get through this confirmation?
Yeah. For sure, yeah. The sense is that he'll sail through the confirmation, at least right now, partly because of this positive reaction to it. Elizabeth Warren, notably in her statement, didn't say she was going to vote against him. She's going to meet with him and then decide. But among the kind of spectrum of Trump cabinet appointees, this one is likely to kind of get through quickly, as opposed to other figures like Robert Kennedy, which will be a big fight over the years ahead. But Bessent will be easier.
If I look back on the first Trump term, Ben, the Treasury Secretary, Stephen Mnuchin, was one of the steadiest hands, right, within that cabinet, both in terms of policymaking, but also in terms of his relationship with Trump. One of the folks who did not come away with a tell-all memoir, whatever it is. Right. So what lessons do you think Bessent could sort of take away from the Mnuchin experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Trump's record, what he shows you is that the area kind of interestingly he's most careful on and a little bit wary of kind of going too far is the economy. On these other appointees, Attorney General, Health and Human Services, he's willing to kind of roll the dice. But I think the Bessent choice and the lesson he might take along with the Mnuchin choice is that he wants to kind of get a steady hand in there and he's willing to listen to them. Mnuchin was one of the few cabinet members that survived all 4 years and was there all the way to the end. And Yellen did the same thing under Biden. So this has been as you noted, an area of relative stability, even in sort of Trump's world where things can happen a lot quickly. So I think he'll have a close ear with Trump. The question is whether he can get his policies through.
Yeah, I'm also curious, Ben, just about the different personalities and characters involved in all this. Because as you point out, you got Scott Bessent, and now he's going to have to, if confirmed, he works in the same administration as Howard Lutnick, who was campaigning for Bessent's job and seemed to have the backing of Elon Musk. How does it all possibly shake out, do you think?
I think it becomes what Trump has shown is he likes, at least on the economy, a kind of team of rivals who offer him different views. And then it'll Trump will be the one who decides on tariffs. He'll have Lutnick, as you noted, on one side, especially on these things. Lutnick, who's talked about how he likes the 1890s and when tariffs were the thing and before we had the income tax. And we have Bessent, who's offered a much more measured thing. The question is whether Trump, who, by the way, has talked also about the 1890s as a model for him, who he ends up listening to in the end, and can Bessent sort of get in there and say, if you do this, the markets are going to really dislike it, which can be a convincing argument for Trump for sure.